If you've ever wondered if I am capable of making a page that has no flips or interactive elements, this video will answer that question. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I make scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. So welcome to this video, which captures my process for late June 2026. I'm using the Ali Edwards Stories by the Month kit, although you haven't seen it yet. I'm starting, as usual, by laying out my photos and figuring out where everything is going to live. I have a few different options for some of my photos. You'll notice that they're printed in two different sizes. I have most of my horizontals printed up at 4x6. Most of my verticals printed up at 3x4, but I also have a few 2x3s in there as well. I usually print those for stories that I think have less relevance or importance in the week, or photos that are just a lower quality so they look better, smaller. My second step is to go through the Stories by the Month kit. At this point, I've already used some of it on the previous page. I do 2 pages per month. And so I'm looking at my leftovers, of which there are lots. These kits come jam-packed with lots and lots of embellishments and cards, and they also include vellum as well as cardstock cards. So there's really a lot to choose from. As you see, as I'm going through, there are some places where I'm putting multiple photos in one pocket, and if that's the case, then that means I'm planning on potentially doing an interactive element there that will include more than just what is seen in the pocket itself. So I have these are my little punch templates. I made these templates for every punch that I have so that I can know which punch I need to go grab if I need to punch something out. So I grabbed my pink whale punch, which is 2.5 inches. Based on my template, that's what I knew I needed. Vellum is a little bit trickier to punch, so I'm not too surprised that it didn't cut all the way. I can just finish off that cut with my scissors, and I actually don't really mind if it's not perfect. I wanted to mount this around here on the orange circle on this 4x6 card. I'm sacrificing the whole card just to kind of hand cut the circle itself. And I stapled the vellum, and then I glued that whole thing onto the June vellum card. Now, because I don't do a whole lot of interactive elements on this page, I am going to do a fair amount of stamping, probably more than usual. I have 2 foodie picks here. I have my seafood chowder from a local restaurant. It's not super local. We went on a little road trip to go to it. And also a really delicious sandwich that Scott made me. So I grabbed my whole collection of foodie stamps. So these are any stamps that refer to food or have that as a theme. And I had to go quickly wet my stamp cleaner, which was all dried out, but now it's wet. I'm putting the word local brew along the edge of the beer. And then I'm also going to look at what else I might want to put on some of these other foodie pictures. So this is a stamp that says local dish, and it has a fork and a knife on it, and I've decided to stamp that onto a card. I really like this background. It's like a grayish beigey color with a light blue grid pattern on it, and so I thought that was really cute. I stamped it on there. I'm going to use my circle punch, just use my templates there to figure out which one I needed, use my circle punch to punch that out, and I'm actually going to color this in with a Tombow marker. I think it's N95. And I'm going to put it there, but you know what? I'm feeling like it's getting kind of lost on the page. So let's grab another circle punch and let's mat this. So I used my templates again, and my templates told me that nothing was going to give me a small enough little black edge, so I went into my dies instead. I'd rather use a punch, but if I don't have the right size punch, I don't have the right size punch. So I wanted this to be just very slightly bigger than the circle, so I just As you can see, I picked one that was just a little bit bigger. I'm going to use a piece of scrap black cardstock and mount that disc that has the stamp on it onto the circle that is in black cardstock. Glue the whole thing onto the seafood chowder photo, and then that one is done. Now for this one, I'm going to pick another stamp. I really like this one. It says "Savor This." I want to actually, I'm changing my mind here, and I'm thinking what I'd like to do. Okay, this is not part of the scrapbooking process. I do put packing tape on the tops of all of my stamps, and some of my stamps are missing it. So whenever I encounter a stamp set that doesn't have that, I just quickly grab my packing tape and add it. It makes it so much easier to just rip open the stamp set and use the one that you want and then put it away super easily. You don't have to keep track of where that sheet is and all of that. It also makes it really easy for you to close it in a way that it's perfectly aligned and can slide back into its pouch really easily. So I have this Savor This photo, or not photo, I have a Savor This stamp. And you might notice a few minutes ago, I grabbed a piece of acetate that is 4x6, and it's really hard to see because it's acetate, it's clear. But I do have a piece of acetate sitting over my photo. See, it kind of went out of alignment there. I actually just took it off. I use that to trial different stamps because if you put a stamp on your photo, sometimes the stamp ends up sticking to your photo, and when you pull it off, it pulls off part of the ink. And yeah, if you're not ready to stamp on your photo yet, I find just having a piece of acetate that's sized perfectly to just try out different stamps really helps. So I just keep that in my Project Life stash. It's in a certain place where I can grab it easily. I do have another one that is sized to 3x4 as well, so I grab whichever one I need based on what I'm stamping on. Now there are two photos here about coffee, so I grabbed, within my food stamps, I have some coffee stamps as well, so I grabbed two of those sets. And I'm just trying to figure out which one I might want to put on this photo of Scott at the coffee shop in Mahone Bay. I'm going with this one. It says new coffee shop because we had never been to this one before. At least I don't think we have. Oh, there was the 3x4-inch piece of acetate that I was telling you about. So I'm going to stamp that right on the table, and I like how that looks right there. Now for this one, it's a broken coffee cup. My cup, which is a exclusive, it's a design that you couldn't buy for very long. And my friend gave it to me. It's from all the way from Germany, and I was heartbroken when it broke, but it just fell right off of the coffee maker. I knocked it. It didn't fall off magically. I knocked it off, but it didn't fall very far. It just basically toppled over. It wasn't very high up at all, and it just toppled over and completely broke. But it broke in these two big pieces, so Scott glued it back together for me, and I'm using it to hold paintbrushes now. But I was heartbroken because I use this cup almost every day, and I love it, and it's in a color like Nicole has it in red, and I had it in blue, and it was just, Anyways, I felt badly because it was also I know that it was expensive because she took me to that store and I saw the mugs and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't afford these mugs. So I was kind of feeling badly about breaking something that was not only cherished for sentimental reasons, but it turns out it's expensive to replace. Oh, pardon me. Sorry for my voice going like that. So some of these cards have these circles on it, and I've used the circle card on the previous spread in another color, but I wanted to just use the circle by itself. So I just cut it off the card, and I'm going to have the circle kind of protruding from behind the photo, and then I'm going to use that circle to hold my journaling. So I'm just putting the whole thing together right now, and sometimes I do the journaling along the shape of the circle, but in this case, I'm just doing it straight in the boring way. So my journaling here says movie club at Great Roads Brewery. We discussed Sinners and Flatliners, such different movies. And then I'm going to use my roller date stamp to stamp it there. yeah, next to Sinners, Flatliners was really not very good. Sinners was one of the best probably the best vampire movie I've ever seen. One of the best movies I've seen. Really, really good movie. Next, I'm going to document this, and I couldn't decide which one I wanted to use, and I decided, hey, why not use them both and do a little kind of effect with it. So I had printed them both up because I couldn't decide, so I might as well use them both. So I just did that. I used a stamp set to stamp Oh No. I must have been talking about something else when I did that. And that Oh No is actually from an MTK stamp set. Next, we have a black and white photo. It has a bit of a filter on it, so it's a little bit more dramatic, which I really like for that. It's a photo of the 3 churches in Mahone Bay. Mahone Bay is famous for its 3 churches. And I just wrote at the bottom, Mahone Bay, June 27th, 2026. So very plain. Now, I also printed this up in 2 different sizes, and I thought it really does not need to be that big because it's a tiny little watercolor palette is what it is. And so I decided to mount it on a card instead of having it just fill a pocket on its own. It didn't feel important enough to fill a pocket on its own. So I added a little tab. The tab says currently, and I'm just going to write, it says, I replaced the pans in this tiny palette and we'll use it on the go. So it is a Winsor & Newton Cotman travel watercolor kit, I guess maybe you'd call it. I really, really love it, but I didn't love the watercolor pans inside of it. They're student grade, and I have like lots of good quality watercolors, so I didn't feel like I wanted to use those, so I just took them out and replaced them with, I had some tubes and some extra empty pans. So here's what I'm doing with all of these June cards. You'll see that there are 3 of them across the center of my spread. It says June in 3 different colors, and then it says stories and stuff underneath. I've been using these in different ways each month. They do come in the Ali Edwards Stories by the Month kit every month. This month, I'm doing it to put an overheard quote. So I'm writing overheard, and then I'm just thickening up the word overheard, and then I am basically putting a quote on there. So the first one in that greenish goldish color said, overheard, if I'm on my phone a lot, it's because I'm playing my amino acid game. And that was Liv, who was studying for her MCAT. And I just thought that was kind of funny because, you know, a person her age, she's in her early 20s. Usually if they're on their phone a lot, it's because they're on TikTok or Instagram. But no, she's playing an amino acid game in typical Liv fashion. Then on the green one, overheard, it says her name is Lila, but her nickname is, hey there, Delilah, what's it like in New York City? And that was a Sophie quote because she always says silly things like that, and she's always coming up with silly nicknames that end up being longer than their actual name. Then on the blue one, it says overheard, I just want my dopio, and this was Sophie before an early morning shift looking for her coffee. She was a little cranky that day, and we called her out on it, and she was like, I just want my dopio. So it looks like I forgot to zoom out, but I think that's going to be okay. So here I am with this. This is, I believe, the last card that still needs to be done on this page. And I really loved this vellum that says, oh, June, I love you so. Here's why. And it's a photo of us putting up the sail that we put as shade in our backyard every year. We attach a sail. It attaches to our house in 2 places, and then it attaches to 2 trees that we tie it to. And it's always a bit of a ordeal to get it put up. And I took pictures this year because I realized, hey, this is an annual thing, and I don't usually track it. So I didn't actually want to do a flip because I was feeling kind of over flipped from the last layout. I don't know if you saw it, but it was an hour-long process video with many, many, many flips. I again have my piece of acetate out so that I can play around with what stamps I want to use here. So all that I did, I'm just kind of going back to the card that I'm not working on anymore, but I attached the 2 extra photos instead of making a flip for them. I just attached the butterflies at the top and I'll tuck them in behind the photo, and that's enough. They'll just be tucked in photos that can pull out. Now I'm doing some tone on tone stamping here with balmy blue ink from Stampin' Up, and this stamp says we have everything we need right here, meaning right here in Nova Scotia. We do lots of road trips in the summer to little towns and places. I'm just going back with the packing tape again. A lot of my Ali Edwards stamps don't have the packing tape on it, so as I use them, I will be adding it. I didn't want to sit down and do it one day because it doesn't seem very fun. And then here it is. So that's it. And I guess if you include those pull-out photos, maybe there's a interactive element, but for the most part, this page was super quick, super easy, very straightforward. Here it is again for you to look at. Shout out to the Patreons from the previous screen. And if you like this video, hit the subscribe button and stick around. There's lots more where this one came from. And I will talk to you next time. Have a really great scrappy week.